Welcome to, some would argue, the whole reason we have this podcast.
Yeah.
The dragon grading and conclusion to our Lizzie's Award, where we will be breaking down 5 dragons that we primarily saw, excluding dragons we covered in season 1.
Yeah. We're I don't know if I was supposed to jump in.
Oh, you can just, we're co-hosts. We can jump in whatever we want.
It's our show.
We don't have producers. Well, Austin is our producer.
Co-producer.
Co-producer.
We are grading dragons
Yes.
from House of the Dragon Season 2.
Yes.
Now, first things first, we did grade dragons from Season 1 a few months back. So check that one out first if you're wondering about Caraxes and RX and good old Vagar. We're not going to be talking about those, and I do think it's worth getting out of the way that I feel like those grades kind of stand even with the events of Season 2.
Yeah, I don't think there's much change.
Now, I would probably tone down my scores on the character aspect, but that's a conversation we're going to be having.
Yeah, so
this.
before we dive too much in, if this is your first time watching, we have 5 categories that we rate the dragons in. We rate the dragon in design, special effects, the character, the film itself, and the X factor. Now, with all 5 of these categories, we sort of take the lead and run with it as we will. We definitely do have a criteria that we go off of, but specifically, like, when it comes to character, and I just want to get this out of the way. Like, yes, we probably grade character for the dragons a little high. However, I feel like when we start talking about some of these dragons that actually do have inner dialogue, have hopes and dreams, you can write a bad dragon character like, "Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a dragon."
It's true. It's true.
But I feel like even though these dragons are supposed to be seen more intelligent, we do see like with what we're given, I feel like some of these dragons do a great job of showing that character. For example, I may have given Caraxes a little bit of a high score last time.
Dude gave him a 9 out of 10. And you know what that translates to? You know what score
superb.
He said it was a superb character. I would probably give a superb rating to Viserys Targaryen.
Fair. However, with how much that because they're essentially, like, they're not supposed to be just beasts, but the show is portraying them as just beasts. But with how much anger, how much ferocity, how much just wanting to burn and consume everything around it, Caraxes is showing that is who he is as a dragon, and he's doing that in a very effective way. While I don't know if there would be like, "I'm Steve and I'm mad. I hate everybody," sort of just internal monologue dragon. I don't know if...
Listen, I've said it before, I like a talking dragon.
I know you like dragons.
These dragons don't talk.
They don't talk.
And that is the quickest way to establish a dragon that actually has a character to it, that's making decisions in the program. But that's not the only criteria that we're going to be grading on here.
Would you argue that my boy Ramsay has no character? Because
Bryce's dog? Oh, he's got hella personality, but he also gets screen time's not the right word for it, but I get experience more with good old Ramsay boy.
But he doesn't talk. I have met...
He's not getting denied, I'll say that.
He shows more character than people I know from college. Like,
oh yeah, but that is to presume that any human being gets a 10, which is not at all the case.
There are some incredible people out there, Austin.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it's a good segue. We are grading from a 0 to 10 scale, 0 being abysmal and 10 being incredible. If you want a deep dive on what each one actually is, stay tuned. We'll give you a good idea.
I think you'll be able to figure it out as we go on, but we did a little bit more of a breakdown on our methodology at the beginning of that first Dragon Grade video.
Yeah.
So, plug in that just one more time.
Right there. But the 5 dragons that we're going to be covering are as follows. We are going to cover Moondancer, Sunfyre, Seasmoke, Silverwing, and Vermithor.
I think that's everything we needed to cover to get into all this nonsense we have planned for this evening.
Austin, break it down for me. What do you give Moondancer for design?
Oh, Moondancer the dragon has a pretty killer design. I like the look of this dragon a lot, and that's why is his name slipping me now? Ryan J. Condal's thing is he said I gave him one note. David Bowie.
The description that I gave to the designers was simply David Bowie.
And as silly as that was, hearing that come out of his lips, I do think the designers kind of got there.
Yeah.
Where no, not he, it's a she dragon. She looks like a punk. The webbing on its head it kind of gives like a striped, like zebra look to it. It has a little bit more sunken eyes, which almost read like eyeliner around it. Plus, it is a more slender and fast dragon, which I don't know. I'm just thinking like skinny jeans. So I think that there was a concept in the design, and I think it was well executed, and my gut says that it is a good-looking dragon that I'm going to give an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10.
Which translates to a great.
Great. I did enjoy it. For me, though, like, as fitting as the mohawk was, I felt like it was just a little too distracting for me.
How much money would I have to pay you to shave what you have going on right now into a mohawk?
Do you know how long I've
zebra.
been working on this, Austin?
That's why it's an interesting question.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, I'm always looking for more money, but
$400.
No.
$800.
I gave it a 6, which is good. And I will be perfectly honest, we even debated whether we were going to cover Moondancer or not, just because of the limited amount of screen time that we got. But I felt like it was good. It was a fun dragon. It was fun, because this was the first dragon where we see like multiple colors on a dragon. And
yeah, there's some coloring in others, but it's not so stark.
Yes, because this was like a green and black dragon.
Yeah, and I actually really like the marble sort of look to it. I'm giving it more credit for that than I think you are.
I know, but for me, there's such just a clean look for just that pure color of a dragon, whether it's a pure red, a pure green, or possibly a pure bronze or silver.
Bronze.
No spoilers. So I'm saying 6, but again,
it's a good score.
It's a good score.
You're not hate.
I'm no hate.
You're hating a little on the mohawk, but the design overall, we're both on board for. What's up next?
Special effects.
I got to just get this out of the way. I think that they really stepped up their game from season 1, where we were giving out a lot of very high scores.
Yes.
In the special effects, which this is the realization of the creature within the show. So it's not like we've already talked about the design of it. This is taking that design and then portraying it in the world of the media. And season 1, they did a great job. It was probably the best dragon CGI on television. They took it to another level with this. I think the realism is up. I think that they use less like tricks, like muddying the image to hide that. And I think that Moondancer looked fantastic, like fully convincing in all of her scenes. I'm going with a 9. I think that her realization was superb.
Yes. I'm just going to say this. All of the dragons got at least a 9. I know that for me, like,
spoiler alert.
It's a spoiler alert, but I just want to at least get that out of the way, because it's going to be like, oh, they're just handing out 9s. But again, all the dragons.
That's the other side of this, where this show is not really propping up its dragons to have like great character elements. The realization of the physical creature, fantastic.
Yes.
So it kind of balances out.
Yes. So I agree. 9 is what I gave Moondancer right there, which leads us to character.
I'm going to make this quick. 4 out of 10.
3.
Hey, okay. We're kind of on the same page here.
But break it down for me.
Okay, so that 4 translates to mediocre, which is where I'm at with a lot of the dragons in this. In fact, I have gone rogue, Bryce, and I have pulled
Oh,
a comment from behind your back.
Oh, my power! I was missing a part of the Sultan of Socials.
This comment was made on our first Dragon Grades podcast, and I couldn't agree with it more. In fact, I don't think that I could say my issue more concisely than this. So, I guess I'll just go ahead and read it. And hope that Bryce doesn't murder me after the cameras.
There's been
rolling.
a coup attempt.
No, listen to it. It's worth it. It was worth breaking the form. All right, from Co Sinsin 7305.
Okay.
Commented, my biggest issue with the show isn't necessarily the show's fault, since there's tons of story to be told and not much room for much else. But the dragons don't really have any personality exploration. The writers never talk about their dragons, never have any meaningful moments with their dragons, one-on-one, etc. The dragons honestly feel no different than horses in this show. Tell me they're wrong.
They're not. But again, like, usually the roles are reversed, and I am the one showing the outrage, and you are providing this answer. It's all about that cheddar. It's all about, you know how much money it costs to produce one of these bad boys?
I'm not blaming anybody. It's just for the purpose of the character score, they're going to score a little bit low. Now, I do hear your point that you said earlier, where they're more nothing characters as opposed to bad characters.
Yes.
So for that lack of time that we spend with them, it's more that the scores are getting pulled toward the middle.
Yes.
Rather than, I don't think, I mean, we'll see as the discussion goes on, but I don't think we're going to get anybody scoring in like the 1-2 range.
No.
But I'm giving Moondancer a 4 because you don't get a lot here. I mean, you get a sense that this dragon is fast, but most of its physical attributes are out of its control, and I gave her credit for that in the design aspect.
Yes.
It seems to have a good relationship with Bela, but there's really just not enough here for me to award anything beyond a 4.
And that's real. Like, 3 translates to bad, and I almost feel bad for giving it that, because it's not that it's necessarily bad, but like you said, there's nothing here that we can see character-wise for Moondancer.
Which is not the case for every dragon we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's some of these characters that have these dragons that have some characteristics. We even saw some characteristics from like RX back in episode 10. Like, it was limited, but we saw something. Moondancer literally was just a mode of transportation. Like, it was a drone for Team Black.
Yeah, something for Kristen Cole and the boys to be scared of for a bit.
And so even though the 3 translates to bad, it translates to nothing for me. Like, it's because I don't feel comfortable saying it's abysmal, because it's not like,
it's nothing beyond the bare minimum.
Exactly. This one I'm curious to hear from you. What would you give the film rating?
Out of 10. Which we have it on the spreadsheet as film, but we're talking about a TV show, so the media score is the way I'm thinking of it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a balancing act here, where I believe Moondancer only appears in 1 episode.
Yes.
At least only in a significant way in episode 3.
Yes.
Of House of the Dragon season 2, which is, in my opinion, one of the weaker episodes, if not the weakest episode.
Yes.
So I got to take that into account and give like more credit to the 1 episode it appears in, but some credit to the season overall. Like, if I was scoring the season overall, I'd probably give it like a low 7 out of 10, high 6 out of 10.
Yes.
But this episode, in combination with that, like my feelings on the season overall, translates to a 6 out of 10.
Yes. So I think we grade just a slightly different way, which, again, it's our podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Watch out.
How I interpret it is, how does the dragon affect my feeling towards the episode itself? Because if this sequence wasn't in the episode, personally, I think the episode would have fallen a lot more flat. However, I do agree. I think that low 7, high 6 is that range, which is
for the season overall or the episode?
for the episode overall.
Okay.
So that's why I gave it I gave it that 6 though. Still, like it made actually I would say the episode. If it wasn't for this scene, I would have said that the episode was either a 4 or a 5 in general. But with Moondancer, it's a solid 6. It was good.
Now, we have one last category on this, and I swear that the other dragon grades will go a little quicker because I think that we're breaking down our methodology as we go on this first one, which will be more apparent going into the others. X Factor.
Yeah.
So I'll just summarize really quickly. This is kind of a whatever you think score.
Yes.
I look at it as, what about this dragon am I not going to experience or see about other dragons? And there's a little bit here. Most of it comes down to the design, which again already gave some credit there, but it is a really unique looking creature. Also, I think Moondancer has one of the more memorable screeches. It's kind of high pitched than a lot of the dragons in the show. It has kind of a quick bat-like energy to it. So all of that considered, I'm giving it a 5. So I think the X Factor score, it deserves an okay.
I think that's appropriate. I think out of all the things I graded too high on, even though yes, we can make the argument for character, I think X Factor is what I may have graded too high on in the previous run around, because thinking about all these dragons, there's not really anything that's really setting it apart from other dragons in a way.
I mean, we get some variety. House of the Dragon certainly has more variety in it than Game of Thrones.
Yes.
No doubt.
Well, if we say design though, but that goes into, we have a whole subject though of design. And again, I'm not discounting from you. I'm just sort of painting where I went with this.
What I look at it as is design is like in and of itself. Like I'm just considering the design, not in relation to other dragons. I'm just kind of like, and part of that is just a visceral, like, how does this make me feel? And the X Factor is a comparison to the other dragon. That's where the comparing comes. So the fact that it's a very, very different design, well, that was maybe one too many varies, but it gives it a little bit of credit in the X Factor category for me.
I will say there is a notable X Factor that I do want to highlight. It's not Bela who notices Kristen Cole and Gwaine. It's Moondancer who notices and then sort of alerts Bela. So to me, again, with that sunken eyes, it's like a hawk where it can be able to zero in down on its prey a little bit better. I'm sure there's other dragons that may have that, but we really got to see that from Moondancer. So there is an X Factor I want to highlight. However, I gave it a 4.
That's fair. And I think we're pretty close. I mean, there's not a single score. No, so I gave it an 8 in design, you gave it a 6, but that's the biggest gap in our rating. So I think we're on the same page.
And
with
we
this
all
one.
know that I love my big beefy dragons. So that's
you lean toward the paladins and the barbarians and all that.
Not the rogues.
Okay, which all of that brings Moondancer's final score to an even 6 out of 10.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. And that feels about right to me.
I feel like that feels right. Which moves us on to Sunfyre.
Yes, which you are going to be leading us off on and letting us know, how did you feel about the design of Sunfyre?
This might be spoilers for other dragons up front. I love the metallic look. The metallic look to the dragon makes it look incredible. And I think, I could be wrong, but when we watched the episode, when we were going into this season, you seemed a lot more excited for Sunfyre than I did for it.
I'm holding my tongue because I have to speak here in just a minute.
I personally loved how it may not be the most beautiful dragon, because I have thoughts on the most beautiful dragon scene, but it is a beautiful color. I love how it sparkles and it shines. And I do enjoy that, because I think we came down that it has the wolf skull, which really does benefit it. And make
Looking over the footage again, Sunfyre has an interesting design of the head where it's sort of wider and flatter. And that combined with its like webbing and its like smooth, pretty boy skin makes it look kind of like an amphibious creature to me.
I can see that.
I'm not saying that it's not the wolf skull, because that's the classic thing. Miguel Sapochnik had the quote where he's like, most of the dragons in the show their heads have been modeled after either a T-Rex, a wolf, or a horse.
Yes.
And so I'm with you there, but to me it's more like a newt. Like I would add a fourth option for Sunfyre.
Newt?
Yes.
That being said, I give it an 8.
I also gave it an 8. But see, and that's a high score.
Yeah.
But it feels like it should have been a 10.
For me, and again, no surprise here, it's not a big dragon. If it was a little bigger, it probably would have got a better score. But it also had that pretty boy of like not being as muscly as other dragons.
But I mean, a great design overall. And I mean, I'll save that for character.
Okay.
Do you want to hit us with the special effects score?
I mean, there's no other way to say my score other than just I gave it a 10.
Damn, a 10.
I gave it a 10. Like just seeing
First 10 of the evening.
It's beautiful to me. Like, yes, being the most beautiful dragon, we should have expected more, but with what they gave us and how they executed it on screen, like, I think it was incredible.
Now I'm just going with a 9.
Okay. I still
very high score.
Superb.
Yes, and my only detraction is I think that the yellow is harder to pull off. This is something that we've talked about with Cyrax, and this is a better instance.
Yes.
Like Cyrax took a hit on that. It's hard to represent that, and the concern is that it ends up reading more like banana than gold.
Yes.
This was a better representation of that, but it's not quite so seamless as some of the best work that I have seen. Although like Sunfyre does have like interaction with other CGI elements, interaction with human characters that is all really, really good. really, really well realized is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
But what about the character of Sunfyre? This is what I'm interested to hear your take on.
This might be a shock to you, but I actually gave it a 6. Now,
a 6.
I'm going to be straight up and honest. 6 is going to be the highest score I give any dragon this evening for myself.
Okay.
And again, I know I've been a little spoily on my answers.
No,
but
I appreciate that. Like I was coming in a little hot. I had the comment locked and loaded there. I was worried you were going to be handing out 9s again.
No.
I think we're on the same page with it.
And my reasoning for 6 is you can, and we even said about it in our episode breakdown of episode 4. This is clearly a youthful dragon. It's clearly a princely dragon. This is not a dragon that has really any fighting experience. And again, when Sunfyre comes out to Aegon, it's like a dog coming up to its owner. And
yeah, because everybody kept gifting the nuzzle that it does, but as it's coming out to him, it does kind of like a little shimmy too.
Yeah.
That I mean, we're reaching a little, but there's some character in that.
Exactly. And I personally, it made me feel something. And even though I'm a designated Team Black and I'm staying loyal to Team Black, the second most heartbreaking thing in that episode, the second most heartbreaking thing in that episode.
For the audio listeners, I am Team Green.
Team Black, baby!
And I am trying to represent that.
Check out YouTube to see what he means. But
even though I think the balance has now shifted to where Team Black truly does have the better dragons, but you know, we're in the process of explaining that feeling right now. Sorry to cut you off so much.
No, I genuinely this might be controversial, but I felt more for when Sunfyre was getting wrecked and Dracarys than when Arax got chomped in episode 10.
Yeah, I'm with that, and that's like a gut check, but I think Sunfyre is decidedly the most emotional dragon death of the show
Other than Melee's.
so far. Well, Melee's is wrapped up because the death of Rhaenys is very emotional to me. The actual death of Melee's, geez, George R.R. Martin just sure loves to double up on these.
Eric and Arik.
The emotion is all about Rhaenys' character in that for me. If I'm just looking at how the death of the dragon is affecting me, then I think Sunfyre is the one. And that's that's kind of getting an edge in that his writer doesn't die at the same time as him, so it is like the spotlight's a little more on him than that scene.
And
but
I think
it's part of all I'm just saying is like we're circling back to where like you get those little tiny moments of personality right before he goes into battle.
And we also, and again, this may not be that big, but for character wise, Sunfyre knows common. Like it doesn't like it was trained to go off of Aegon's
because Aegon's Valyrian is trash.
Well, exactly, but that's the point that I'm trying to make is like this is the only dragon that we've seen that responds to common commands rather than Valyrian commands. And for me, I feel like it would have taken longer. Again, I have no way of verifying, proving this, but I feel like it would have taken more hard work. But the fact that Sunfyre is so devoted to Aegon is that he was able to learn it. So again, that's why I'm willing to give it that 6. We took quite a while to get there.
No,
so.
I think you argued that very well. To me, that translates more to a 5. Because if I'm truly looking at this as a character in the show, it's not really impacting it in that to that great degree. Like all of the decisions, quote unquote, that Sunfyre is making are actually Aegon's decisions. But still, I mean, that's a bump up from Moondancer. So
Yeah.
giving it the 5.
Yeah.
Now, what about the media that Sunfyre appears in? One episode in season 2, I think Sunfyre appears in
Episode 7.
season 1 very briefly, just kind of backgroundy. Although in that appearance, it looks more like rainbow shimmery, and I was really hoping to see that more once we got an up-close look. But alas, it's really only represented in a meaningful way in season 2, episode 4. So taking that into account and the season overall, the show overall, what are you giving the media?
So again, I grade this off of how the dragon influences the episode. And the whole scene between Melee's and Sunfyre fighting, and then eventually Vhagar coming in, incredible. Or some would say superb, because I gave it a 9.
9. Woo. Woo, boy. I mean, it's a good episode.
Again, I'm grading off of how the dragon contributes. It's a good episode in general, but I feel like having Sunfyre really makes it that we feel more when Sunfyre goes down. We feel more when it gets raked by this more experienced dragon. I'm willing to say 9.
You know what? You actually talked me up from a 7 to an 8. Because I do think that episode 4 is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
In season 2, and particularly Sunfire's moments. Like if I was just isolating that battle, probably be like a 9. So taking into my feelings about the episode overall and the season and the show, it's the lowest 8 I'm gonna give tonight, but an 8 no less.
Hey, an 8's an 8.
I don't believe in this 0.5 nonsense that you'll throw in there sometimes.
Hey, sometimes it's needed. But X Factor, I'll make it quick. It's pretty. 4.
Same. This brings Sunfire's total score to a 7.1 out of 10. Pretty good.
Very good.
Honestly, was not expecting it to go that high. I think my ratings are generally a smidge lower than yours, but it's all good. It's all good. I think you argued all of your ratings there very well. Let's move on to Seasmoke.
Yeah, hit me with the design.
So a quick clarification, which probably should have happened before we started rolling, but where we did get a pretty good look at Seasmoke in season 1. Are we considering everything in the show up to this point, or just exclusively season 2?
Here's the thing. I don't want to cut ahead and all, but I prefer a lot of the looks in season 1. So, and I graded accordingly to season 2. So,
okay, so we just do whatever we want.
you do whatever you want.
Okay, so the primary, I mean, most of his screen time, especially in this dragon's case, is in season 2. So
Yes.
that's going to weigh a lot more heavy, but I am just making it clear that his appearance in season 1, episode 3 is a factor.
Yes.
Okay. So Seasmoke is a cool design because he is just your standard Game of Thrones Drogon dragon style.
Did you not see online? They brought the actor that played Drogon back to play Seasmoke.
I'm glad they're getting paid. But it's not like the most exciting design in the world, but it is tried and true.
Yes.
It's sturdy. In fact, I would say it's very good. I'm giving it a 7.
7.
And before I throw to you, I will say that I like the webbing that kind of runs down its neck. It gets a little bit more of that than other dragons. And in concept, I don't mind the like pearlescent color. So that's grading okay here. It's not my favorite look for a dragon. But yeah, it's just very standard. But again, this show, like, they design cool dragons.
Yeah. I'm a little more nostalgic for the classic look. However, I preferred the more blue look that it had in season 1.
I'm with you, but I'm saving that for special effects. Oh, no, I guess that's design. No, yeah, you're right. Wherever you want to put it in there.
We run the podcast. We do what we want. And for me, like, again, I'm super nostalgic for that look. It might be one of my favorite looks, but I still gave it an 8, which, again, great. But I wasn't a fan of, like, I shouldn't even say I wasn't a fan. It's just, I preferred that more blue look, and I wish they would have kept that.
Fully agree. Like, that's in my notes here, that it's weird how it got more pale. And like I guess it makes sense that as a dragon ages, maybe its coloring would diminish, but it just looked like a little better coloring wise in the first season.
Well, just to use the aging thing, Vhagar's supposed to be jade, apparently. Like, that's her color. And if you look at
maybe once upon a time.
Yeah. Again, that's just what HBO released.
It's also like that's their prerogative, the House of the Dragon show. It's very serious, and they can't have these like big vibrant colors in it. It's because then people will be able to take the show serious. The show about dragons and magic and incest.
But what do you get of the special effects?
Seasmoke takes a bit of a hit.
Okay.
Because the standard on the show is very, very high. Mm-hmm. I'm specifically talking about the scene with Seasmoke when he claims Adam rather than the other way. I think that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's not really an ideal setting to represent a CGI character. And especially where the lighting, something about how it's almost like monochromatic is like less convincing.
Yeah.
To me. So especially in that, it loses some points, and I'm actually going to give it a 7.
I get what you're coming at, and I also think with it being such a light dragon on the beach, like, it doesn't necessarily do it that many favors. But again, I still think it looks better in the sun than Caraxes did in season 1.
No doubt.
So based off of that, I gave it an 8.
Okay. I hear you. Also, he looks great in the scene with Stefan Darklin.
Yes, and
if I was just going on that, we would definitely be a point or two higher.
And I think he looks great, even though we don't get as many looks, but at the standoff moment.
Yeah, he's kind of backgroundy there, but...
but still.
better than the scene we're talking about.
Yes, better than the scene we're talking about. But character.
Now, Seasmoke makes some decisions.
Yeah.
In this season, I have to say he has a bit of an impact on the plot. And like in that scene that I just mentioned with Stefan Darklin, you see him kind of sussing out the situation and sizing up Stefan.
Yeah.
And then he makes a decision, and then Mr. Darklin makes some decisions, and then Seasmoke kind of changes his mind. And then, like, proceeding into the next episode, or is it the same? Where he goes and decides to seek out a writer. There's a little bit going on here.
Showing character.
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually going to go all the way up to a 6 on Seasmoke.
Impressive. Which is what I ended up giving Seasmoke as well. Because of the very same exact thing. Because Seasmoke has shown initiative.
Okay, now here's a quick question.
Yes.
The 3 dragons we've covered so far, which one's the most fun at a party? Moondancer, Sunfyre, Seasmoke. We got
Sunfyre.
You think, because Sunfyre, I reckon he takes after his rider and is just a bit of a frat, bro. The smooth skin, he's never seen battle.
I hope he doesn't take too much after his master at a party, but I feel like Sunfyre is the one, because like Seasmoke probably has some battle PTSD over here, like,
and he's shown to be a bit temperamental.
a little temperamental. Sunfyre, he's doing a little dance. He's over there.
Now I will say, I think it goes to Moondancer if that's your flavor, but she's specific. You know,
That's if you're going.
If the eyeliner is too much,
That's if you're going to vampire parties over here.
right. But that's not what I said. So we're on the same page.
I said it. Don't worry. Film.
Okay, Seasmoke appears in some of my least favorite episodes. Truly, I think that episode 3 of season 1 is. I'm thinking over this in my head, but if my gut says that's probably the weakest episode of the season, and then it's 6 of season 2.
Oh, in season 2, yes, it's episode 6 and episode 7.
Okay, if I'm wrong, then I will edit this out.
No,
or a correction or something.
I think we're right.
Anyway, not really my preferred episode of season 2 either. And again, I'm a little bit like, he appears more in season 2, which I'm a little colder on than season 1 overall. So I'm giving him a 6.
So
It's still a good job.
yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I do agree with episode 3 in season 1. But again, I'm going off of the idea of what Seasmoke does to the episode. And that final battle sequence, even though it was pretty underwhelming compared to Rook's Rest, it was still pretty great, especially where Seasmoke was coming in and taking out all the archers. And the claiming with Sir Stefan Darkland trying to claim Seasmoke, and then Seasmoke claiming Adam, those were the 2 highlights of that in episode 6. And
I won't argue there.
so I'm going to go but in episode 7 didn't really necessarily affect the episode too much, but still that shot was a cool shot. I loved that little sequence. I hear where you're coming from, so I'm only going to take a step further and just say 7, very good.
Cool. Which leaves us one last category.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have already mentioned how Seasmoke is kind of that standard look. I'm giving it a 4. That's what I'm building out to, and that's partially like that gravitational pull toward the center, where these are more nothing characters than overtly bad characters. But there's not a lot about Seasmoke that makes me want to like latch onto that and feel like there's something special in this creature.
I will say this, like, I initially was going to give it a little bit higher because I was like, this is the only dragon that we see claim the rider rather than the rider claim the dragon. But then Silverwing claims Ulf, so that's not really that unique. So I agree. I gave it a 4.
4 out of 10 from Bryce as well, bringing Seasmoke's final score to a 6.3 out of 10. Bit of a dip from Sunfyre, but respectable. We will now move on to a dragon that I reckon is going to score probably a little higher than that. Silverwing.
Yep.
And you're starting us off and letting me know, scale of 1 to 10, how you feeling about the design of Silverwing.
Okay. There's only one, I don't even want to say critique because it's not really a critique, but you know I love my big, beefy boys. And that's really, it's a lean dragon.
But it's big.
It is big, which is why I give it a 9.
9.
If it had a little more, and again, I know it's supposed to be this beautiful, elegant dragon, and I'm not holding that against it, but my favorite dragons are the destruction monsters that look like can consume the world sort of situation. So again, nothing, superb.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to complain about a 9.
Well, just buckle up, Buttercup.
I love the design of this dragon.
Yes.
So freaking much. And we dug into that a little bit on our episode coverage, but the huge horns that it has that go back, fantastic. It's a great look. It makes it look like a like wicked jester, especially where it has that like more slender face and the tight smile. It's sort of evoking the alien from Aliens, which is one of my favorite creature designs of any media ever. So hitting a lot of my personal like appreciation buttons. This is also by far the most Yu-Gi-Oh dragon that we've had in the show so far, which I appreciate. I'm giving it a 10.
Hey.
I have no notes. I love I'm not saying I want 10 more dragons that look just like that, but this particular creature, it's a 10 out of 10 design for me.
I don't fault you for that because it's a high 9 for me too. Like it's
okay, but how are you feeling about the special effects?
Oh, 10.
There we go.
10 without a doubt. Like it's an easy 10. Like it wasn't even one I had to consider it. And I'm going to save this for character as well, but it's a perfect dragon as in there's no holes in the wings. There's no scratches. There's no scars. You can tell that this is an elegant dragon.
Yeah, because I actually did look it up, and while Silverwing is considerably younger than someone like a Vagar, roughly the same age as Vermithor, and she has been keeping up on the skincare much more diligently, I will say.
Yes.
It's a good look. She keeps it tight.
She does.
I'm giving it a 10 too. The representation, but a big element here for me is where Seasmoke lost some points for that lighter coloring, which is harder to represent. Same thing that I was talking about with Sunfyre. The dark silver that they go with Silverwing is perfect.
Which is still has that like metallic look to it, too.
Oh, yeah. And that's really what I want to get across here is that I think the texturing of this dragon is immaculate.
Yes.
It sort of has like that like industrial like again alien, but it has like rebar. But I mean this as a compliment if you're looking at certain parts of the dragon. And it's seamless. Like you see it in the cave with Ulf there. That's a dragon. It's perfectly realized. You see it flying over King's Landing there. That's a dragon.
Yes.
So had to give it the 10. I think we agree.
Yes, I think that is very appropriate.
Now, what about the character?
4.
We don't get a lot.
Yeah, like the most that you can say is she is immaculate. She is perfect. So clearly she's a dragon who seems to take care of herself a little more. And she immediately took a liking and like almost like the internet is doing the meme that took a motherly approach to claiming Ulf. Just like, oh, honey, you're lost.
You need a protector, don't you?
Come on over here. Mama Silverwing will take good care of you.
Yeah, I think of everyone we've discussed so far, that Silverwing might actually be the biggest bummer at the party, just given her age. But when she brings those cookies out...
we need a Silverwing at the party because Otherwise, everyone's getting alcohol poisoning.
Right. Nothing wrong with
It's
it.
like, you have had 3. You need to have some water real quick.
Love this dragon, but I'm giving it a 4 as well on that same reasoning. What about the media score for you?
The media score, now bear with me. Unfortunately, there was a dragon that I feel like made a little bit more of a splash that we'll be talking about. However, she still had a lot of fun scenes, like particularly the scene of her flying over King's Landing, a lot of fun. So I give it an 8.
Cool.
And it was a good episode. It was a good. Well, no. Wait.
No. I'm gonna bleep that out. That's a big spoiler. Don't say that.
See before.
Check out the Lizzies if you want to know what Bryce just said. Our award show discussing the best elements of House of the Dragon Season 2. Best performances, best dragon moment, best action sequence, best track from the score. All of that. That's already up on audio platforms and
I'll
YouTube.
just keep trying to spoil it for you, taking the Sultan of Socials away from me, Austin. Just kidding.
It'd be quite the petty revenge. You understand that I am the editor. I am God once I end the recording.
I understand, which is why it's an equivalent payback as the Prince of Production that I'm attacking what you're doing over there.
Yes, you will cost me time, but I with an additional deposit of time, I can make you look however I want.
I always look amazing in the thumbnails. What are you talking about?
You do. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Did I say my score yet?
For the film, no.
I don't believe, but I'm giving it an 8 too.
Yeah.
I am very keen on episode 7 of season 2. I think it is one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
Check out the Lizzies for my pick of the very best episode. But where the season overall is scoring a little bit lower than that, the episode 7 would score high enough to offset and pull this final score to an 8 for me. Plus, I just really like this show. I'll just say.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
Now, X Factor.
4.
4
Like,
out of 10.
Really, the only thing that I think it makes it special is the being perfect and immaculate, which already ties into the character and special effects more than anything. So, I mean,
That's where I'm at too. I feel like anything that I could give it credit for in this category, which is meant as a catch-all, that if there's like some aspect to the creature that is not being paid off in those other categories, it can show up here. I'm coming up empty-handed, so I'm giving it a 4 as well. Which is cool because we were lockstep on 4 out of 5 categories.
yeah, which ones were the one that we were off on?
I gave it a 10 on the design, and you gave it a 9.
That's right.
But the final score on Silverwing is going to be a 7.1 out of 10.
Interesting.
Respectable for a creature with this little screen time.
That's the same as Sunfyre, isn't it?
Yes. Those two are tied for highest score yet. But if there is one to beat that, to break the established record for this evening, I have a feeling it might be old Vermithor.
I'm just going to say it. He's big. He's beefy. He's terrifying. He's a 10.
He's a 10. That's it.
What more do I have to say? Like, and I'll say,
if you listen to our podcast, you knew where this was going.
He's terrifying. Like, he genuinely gives off that horror film that Jurassic Park gives off, where you just a killing machine. He's over there blasting everyone. He's massive. And I'll save it for the special effects, but there's some critique that I have. Like, I enjoy the dark look, but I wish we would have gotten more looks in the sun of him. But there was a lot of benefits that was going into the design for him being in the dark.
Yeah, and I think that the whole portraying his immensity, much like Vagar, comes down to both elements, where there's a lot of that in the design, where you're creating a bigger creature, so you just kind of have to grapple with a greater level of detail, and he's going to have horns on horns.
Yes.
I love that we can tell that he's like battle hardened by that. He's got, like, there are cracks in the horns, and there's like a cut on his lip. which I'm giving credit here because I don't know if that really feeds into character. For me, the design is a 9 out of 10. I also feel like his I said it in our recording. He like a male bull. Like I could almost imagine them throwing like a big ol' nose ring and it would totally work.
Yes.
I mean that as a compliment. I love his like horn beard hairstyle looking thing. The coloring that we see in the sun is beautiful. Really works for a dragon, and the like kind of rusty aesthetic I think feeds into that. He's an older dragon really well. So yeah, I already said 9 out of 10. Now technically I think I'm supposed to be leading us on these, so I will say mine on special effects, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, take the lead.
Right, I'm right on that because you did Silverwing first.
It's our podcast. We do what we want.
There are no rules unless we.
It's Calvin Ball.
Why not? Special effects, I'm giving it a 10. I can't even draw out the suspense. The realization of this creature is the pinnacle of the special effects in the entire show up to this point, and it's interacting with human characters, which again takes the challenge to a whole other level. They chose to light him in ideal circumstances where it's like that cavern look with the splash of sunlight, but you get a lot of shadows there. Definitely taking some notes from the the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, but in a good way, because obviously that is one of the most notable landmarks in all CGI creatures to date. So if you're going to take notes from something, that's the one. What do you feel about the special effects?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. The reason I am giving it a high 9 and rather that 10 is with Silverwing, we got a clear, beautiful look of what it looks like fully realized in sunlight. While with Vermithor, it was more of like a blurred background of what we got there.
So you're withholding your final score until 4 or 5 years from now when we do the series Dragon Grade wrap up, the Redux.
I just think it's fair to do. Again, it looks amazing in the dark. I appreciate what they're able to do with all the actors, and I understand the difficulty of that. But with Silverwing, I feel like we got a lot more of an appreciation for that being in the sunlight, seeing what they're fully realizing it. And as I'm sure we're going to get that with Vermithor, I just can't confidently put that down. So high 9. It's
I'm not arguing with a 9. But character is going to score a little lower, as we've established. But I think we get some character from
we
Vermithor.
Definitely get some character. And go ahead. You go ahead on this one. Sorry,
It's all good. And plus we have 5 dragons, so it kind of makes sense that we tandem this one. I think we get some character here.
We do.
There's a ceiling on what this show is willing to do with its dragons as far as the character goes, but we see in his action, his expressions, that Vermithor lives up to his name, the Bronze Fury, because this dude brought the Fury. Yeah. And I'm also roping in the cameo that he makes in season 1, which is a fantastic moment where you just see him like spew all the fire, and that rage is like palpable in that. And then it takes it to a whole other level when you see him just gobbling up all of the dragon seeds. And it's also kind of a character moment where like that's an opportunity we saw with many dragons in season 2, where in them considering new riders, there is a legitimate choice to be made. And Vermithor, he decided he didn't want any of it until somebody really, really proved themselves.
Yes.
So he makes at least one big decision in the show. I think we really feel some of his emotions and some of the way he is, this old, angry, grandfatherly type dragon, and I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 on character.
I literally couldn't have said it better. The only thing that I'd emphasize is just the fact that he does make. I mean, you say he makes one big decision, but I think he makes two big decisions.
Oh yeah, because the writer he does end up accepting.
Yeah, like he's like, oh, he shows what he likes. He wants somebody who's willing to stand up to him. That's some big dragon energy. That's like Damon. Damon only likes a lot of the people that stand up to him. So
Sure.
I agree. 6 is what I gave it.
Sweet. Ooh, Vermithor's doing pretty well so far.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And
What you got, Austin?
I'm adjusting my score on this as we.
Austin Snyder is on the clock. The countdown is going.
And now I really just have to call it one way or another. I think I can go an 8.
An 8
on Vermithor,
Yes.
where I love his cameo in season 1. And so that's bumping things up a little bit because, as I've already said, a little warmer on season 1 than season 2. He's most prominently featured exclusively featured in one of my favorite episodes of season 2. So even if that score is a little low, I think I can bring it up to a medium 8.
That's fair. I'm going to be a little more generous and give it a 9, strictly just because we discussed this. I think we discussed this in the list.
We have talked about everything that could be talked about with this show.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this in particular in the Lizzies, if not. Oh, well.
What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? But they could have ended this. They could have ended the show after episode 7. And I think Vermithor very much would have made it a satisfying ending. Just that whole sequence of events. And then, of course, just the standoff. Even though Rhaenyra was the center point, Vermithor was definitely some of the muscle that was really contributing to that. Like, what are you going to do, Vhagar? What are you going to do? So for me, that's why I'm willing to give it that 9, because he really did enhance episode 7 to that point. And in episode 10, you've been talking about Vermithor ever since that moment. So like, I have to give that for something. So I give it a 9. It's superb.
We're 1 point apart, no argument from me. Now, on the X Factor, I'm interested to see where you go here. Because I think we get quite a bit of mileage out of just the sheer size of this creature.
Yes, but Vhagar has got that size.
Yeah, but that's 2 out of how many hundreds of dragons in the existence of all media. I think that the way that his size is represented in the claiming of Vermithor is like, he's not as big as Vhagar, but I think that you feel the size that he is to a greater degree than we did in any instance with Vhagar in season 1.
Do you mind if I just drop what I gave it and I'll give
Hit
quick
me
just
with it.
I gave it a 4.
A 4?
But here's my reasoning. I feel like size-wise, Vhagar has that size, that fury and ferocity. Caraxes has that fury and ferocity. It's not really bringing that much to the table. And understand, I gave others 3 for having nothing. So I gave it a 4 strictly because I think bronze is a beautiful color that could actually look better in age as the dragon gets older. Because again, it does have that metallic. We didn't get a great look of it in the sun, but it still has that metallic look. But bronze is that color that I think will look better than like a green would look, or possibly even a yellow would look. So it's unique where it's one of those dragons that ages like fine wine, and looks wise. But for me, I don't really see too much that makes it purely unique, except for that color.
I'm coming up to a 7.
A 7.
Very good. And it's not so much like one big thing where his biggest X factor is just his size.
Yes.
And like the design of that, how it's represented, and the difference that creates in what he is versus most creatures and dragons. But then it's a lot of little things. Like he just feels like a different beast altogether. than a lot of, and I don't know, maybe I'm just talking vibes here, but I just get a very distinct feeling about Vermithor when I see the scenes that he's in, as opposed to the other dragons that we've seen in this show and in other media.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there's a category where you can operate on vibes, I think this is the one. I'm giving it a 7, and that is bringing his total score up to a 7.8 out of 10, which is just about to great. And I think that feels about right.
Does feel about right.
And this crowns, do you want to say it?
The big flying Lizzie goes to the Bronze Fury, Vermithor.
For season 2, baby.
But I do believe Caraxes is still.
Well, spoilers and all that. If you haven't watched our first Dragon Grade episode, Vagar actually topped that.
That's
but
right.
I think both Caraxes and Vagar scored higher than Vermithor.
We were a little more generous.
Yeah, a little bit more generous on certain things, but I more or less stand by those.
I think that's fair.
And
again,
7.8 ain't anything to scoff at.
I will say this. I see a lot of potential with Vermithor overtaking Vagar, at least for my own scoring.
Right. And do we just want to agree now that wherever we are in our lives, that when the show does wrap, we can revisit some of these conversations with the full context?
When we have a couple more episodes under our belt.
Oh, yeah, 1 or 2. But I think that's going to be it for the Season 2 Dragon Grades.
Yeah, thank you for sticking it out with us, you guys. I think this is an awesome spot for us to close this chapter of House of the Dragon for now.
Wait, well, closing this huge chapter in Big Flying Lizards, a Dragon Movie and Television podcast.
Yeah.
We were with this, that brings us to a grand total of 22 recordings on House of the Dragon. And it's been a great ride, but I'm ready for a little variety. You want to tell people what we're getting into, Bryce?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more generous than I was in episode 8 of House of the Dragon, because we did talk about that we were going to be covering the 2006 Aragon. But after next week, we'll be doing the 2006 Aragon. The week after, we are going to be covering, and I'm blanking on the year, but the animated Hobbit film.
77.
77, which we have a lot of fun with.
We're talking Smaug.
We're talking Smaug.
Great episode. It's been in the can for a while. I'm excited for people to hear it. If you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this. We have, and you know, if you're feeling like you're only here for the House of the Dragon content, we got plenty of that as well.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out the Lizzies, where we discuss our favorite moments from the season, dragon related and otherwise. That's it for me. You got anything else for the people?
I do just want to say thank you for everybody who's been very much a common occurrence in the comments is you guys are so lucky you're riding the wave of House of the Dragon going on, which yes, we are lucky, but I feel like we're more lucky because of you guys. We have you guys, and if you just are tuning in for House of the Dragon, we will be here for season 3. We do invite you to come along with the rest of us for what we'll be covering for the next year, 2 years in the meantime. So come enjoy it with us, and like, share, subscribe, and share.
You said share twice, but they should share it twice.
They do.
Two people.
2 people.
Minimum. If you want. You don't have to do it.
You need to. It's your homework.
All right.
Everybody needs to share it twice before the next episode drops.
It's late, we're loopy, and a little punchy. I think we should wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night.